high definition. You're watching the Chevrolet Cup at Seafair on KIRO 7.
And welcome back to all of you. If you're just coming back from church, or perhaps you had early brunch somewhere here in the Pacific Northwest, take a look at the party you've been missing. That's out on the log boom. There's the Northwesterner from the deadliest catch, the crab boat. Captain Sig and his crew out there today. This is going to be a fun day for all of us, and we're so glad you're joining us. Live, in-depth coverage of the Seafair Cup, the Chevrolet Cup here at Seafair. And we want to remind you about our texting in to all of us here at our next AT&T text-in question. Here you go. Which do you prefer, unlimited hydros or unlimited lights, and why? Text your answer to 51234. Your answer then enters to win you one of 5 LG View cell phones, courtesy of AT&T. So start texting. We'll show your responses. At the bottom of the screen, coming up just a little bit later, we had a response to who do you think is going to win the unlimited hydroplane race today. And one response came in, said Chip Hanauer in the Boeing boat. Chip, I'm sure would be happy to hear that he has a chance to win this hydroplane race today. But let's head back out to the start-finish line here and bring in Mike Fitzsimmons and Pat O'Day and talk about the guys who actually will be driving in this Heat 2A, which is upcoming here shortly, Michael. And we've got Steve David and Jeff Bernard, two guys that battled it out in a heat yesterday.
Yeah, and the outcome might just be different on this one, Steve and Pat, because I think Jeff Bernard wants that inside. He knows that that's where he's going to have to be to win. And so we may see some interesting score-up battle here before we get to the start and finish.
Well, if you see Steve David out in front in the Oberto, I want to give you some math. The Oberto company came up with $250,000, and the people of Madison added another $250,000. $500,000 went into improvements in that boat. So if you see Steve David out in front, you can put a $500,000 price tag on that.
Well, he's sitting several hundred points ahead now in national points, and the guy that's pursuing him, of course, is Jeff Bernard. So this is an opportunity for Jeff to pick up a few more points against Steve David in that national high points race, because after Seattle is only San Diego, so he's got to do it here or he's going to have to let him go.
And one thing Steve David said yesterday, and I think basically every driver has said, you want to be on the inside lane here at Seafair if you want to have a chance to win against other competitive boats, right?
Particularly with this northeast wind we've got going right now. It's a great ride down into the first turn, which isn't always the case when the wind's out of the south, Pat, but this is an excellent opportunity. Of course, then you get your boat set up in nice clean water as you head down the back chute if you've got a lead, and that's very important in these early preliminary heats this afternoon. And we're going to see the situation, of course, change. The course is always a little bit different. And while I'm thinking about the things that are about to come, let's say hello to Roger Newton, who's in a Seattle hospital. Raj, we miss you. The whole community isn't complete without you down here. He's a great boat builder. He is the fellow who actually created the sport of radio control unlimited hydroplane racing. He's built just about every boat in miniature or in full size that's ever existed, one way or another, Pat O'Day.
Roger and I played golf over in Tri-Cities, and he hit the longest drive of his life. Roger, get well and get those clubs out again, my friend.
All right, gentlemen, thank you very much. And Roger, we had our get well wishes as well. Still to come, live boat racing here from Seafair. Heat 2A upcoming. Good boat racing. You don't want to miss it. Stand by. Well, how about that? It's time to go live racing Heat 2A. And here are the stories we'll be looking at today. Jeff Bernard, the young gun, in the formulaboat.com. How about the veteran Steve David? Who will be chasing whom? He won Heat 1A, did David. And could be the surprise, Bryant in the U-10 Haas boat. We'll see. All part of the storylines for Heat 2A.
Heat 2A of the Chevy Cup at Seafair is brought to you by Southwest Airlines, the official airline of Seafair, with 4 daily nonstop flights to Denver, and is presented for Seafair by 76, proud sponsor of the Chevrolet Cup. 76, get the spirit.
And here is your lineup for Heat 2A, and we've got a full load of boats, 6 of them, theformulaboats.com. Oh boy, Oberto. Haas Mortgage Investors, the Miss Procraft Windows, Miss Albert Lee, and the Mirage Boat, the Fred Leland Boat U100 team. Taking a look out at the race course here from high above in Chopper 7. Little bit of rollers, but still pretty smooth. The wind's been kicking up all morning, and it is chilly. Here are the drivers in Heat 2A. Taking a look, Jeff Bernard in the Formula boats. Michael, this guy is a comer.
He's going to look for the inside lane here. He knows he has to have it if he's going to beat this competition. So he's going to be very interesting to watch in the score-up.
Your defending champion, Steve David, in the Alberto boat. Always confident, Chip.
Lots of experience in the seat and lots of pepperoni in the fuel tank with nothing to prove here.
Guard Swanson is with the Alberto team down in the pits.
Well, I just talked to Steve David, and in this particular heat, Steve, all they really care about is beating the U5 because they have their eye on a national championship for points, and to do so, they can take another big step by getting more points by beating the U5 and kind of separating themselves from that boat.
Here is the U10 boat with David Bryant at the controls, and Mike, this young man was number 2 at Seafair a year ago.
He was, and whatever Bernard and Alberto, Steve David are planning, this guy could spoil these plans in this heat.
Bill Rocker, what's it like down in their pits right now?
I talked to David right as he was getting in the boat, and he said that everything's great. He gave me 2 thumbs up, and it'd be interesting to see if he can get the inside lane here to see what he could do.
Inside is where everybody wants to be. Ken Muscatel, the oldest driver in the race today in the Miss Program.
He's also a clinical psychologist, but he's driving a race boat. It makes you wonder if he needs therapy himself.
The U50 Miss Albert Lee with Brian Perkins at the controls. Michael?
One of the upstarts we were talking about earlier in the program, and this young man is going to get some more experience here. Every single race is a learning opportunity for him.
And our good friend who was up here just prior to our racing today, Fred Leland's boat, the U100, Mirage.com with Greg Hopp at the controls.
Fred Leland's got some health issues, and Greg Hopp would like nothing better than to get the Mirage boats into the final heat. He's going to need at least a first or a second here to do that.
Taking a look, 6 boats out here already trying to score up and already churning up the waters with a minute and a half before the gun. Pat O'Day, the other member of our broadcast crew.
Jack in the Box happily congratulating the fastest qualifier for Heat 2A, Jeff Bernard and Formula Boats, the U5. Now, they acquired a lot of the Bernie Little Budweiser equipment. They're quick. On your screen, that'll be the red boat with a white tail. He qualified at 154.615 miles an hour. And for the best in fast food anytime, stop by your nearest Jack in the Box today.
All right, Patrick, and we see these boats are both slowing down and speeding up and cutting through the infield, and that's what you do to get your position, right, Chip?
It is. This is they've changed the start procedures, and we're going to talk about that later in the day before the final heat. But there's a couple guys that desperately need the inside lane. So boat racing, more than a test of bravery, is a chess game. And this is the chess game going on now, trying to maneuver yourself, get into that inside lane.
And the man who will call this chess match, as he does every Seafair for us with the first live action of the day. Here's Mike Fitzsimmons at the start-finish line.
It appears that Jeff Bernard wants that inside lane very badly to possibly risk the ire of the officials by creeping very, very slowly, almost a little too slowly a couple of times. There we'll have to see whether the officials approved of that, but he will get the inside lane, and that's what he absolutely needed. He is followed by Stephen David to the start line as they ratchet up their speed early as the countdown continues with a little under 9 seconds to go. The other guys have got a little more speed as they come to the line, particularly David Bryant in the Haas Mortgage as they hit the line. I think he had the best start there, and he's got the best boat speed as they come down into the first corner here. He's coming from the 3 lane just virtually in the middle of your screen. And Jeff Bernard is tight right around the buoy line. That's Stephen David in between them and Chip Hanover. It appears that these 3 guys are about ready to mix it up.
David Bryant seems to be able to click off these nearly perfect starts or jump the gun as he did in Tri-Cities. He's a master at the starts. I think he just needs to start going inside to start to win.
Well, we'll find out here because he's getting challenged right away by David Bryant in that Haas Mortgage. And Stephen David's right in there as well. We got 3 boats practically side by side up in the upper corner on lap number 1. Stephen David actually got parked in some water there, and it slowed him down a little bit. He got a little bit erratic, but he's now back and on it again. And from the outside, he just got overtaken by David Bryant. First lap is down, and it is Jeff Bernard, your leader. Pat the speed.
We don't have a speed yet. I'll get back to
All
you.
right, get back. This was a quick one, though. As they come back through that corner now, Jeff Bernard still in command from the inside lane. Just exactly what he needed.
we got a problem.
Somebody upside down.
We've got a problem. That's David Bryant's
That's
upside
David
down.
Bryant, the Haas Mortgage, just went upside down
I
there.
think what he did was, it's not the typical blowover. There he is coming out feet first. The driver can get himself out of the boat, but it's not easy. And I'll tell you what, he must have practiced that. And look at, he's not worried about his health.
No.
He's just angry that he knows his day's probably over.
And you should know now, everything stops. When a boat goes over, red flag comes out, everything stops around the course to check on David Bryant. But not only is he okay, he's angry.
He is just beside himself because he had a great race going there, but he got himself pinched just a little bit in some of that rough water. He was trying to leave a lane for Stephen David, who was keeping the pressure on him, and it looks like he just hooked the sponson and may have spun it around and upside down.
And this is the last thing. If I were speaking to all of these drivers this morning, I'd say, guys, remember, just get into the final. If you find yourself running in second or third, don't take any chances. It's a percentage game. Just take it and get in the final. Now, they're completely out of it.
Well, you know, we go back to just yesterday. We had absolutely flawless racing. Granted, everybody knew they wanted to get in today into one piece, but now they come out here, Michael, first shot out of the box, first heat of live racing today, and we get a boat go over.
Well, the water is not particularly rough when you make your start charge. It usually gets very rough after the first lap, and there you go. You see, now watch him. Oh, yeah, he got some air under it. Oh, it was a blowover. Catches the boat and snap rolls, and all the pieces go flying. And at that moment, though, he realized he was okay, and from that moment forward, he was just fuming inside. Watch him come out of the cockpit. He came out of the cockpit like somebody who was coming out the back door to shoot a squirrel. He was upset.
Now, that wasn't technically... you know, Mike, it's funny, that wasn't really a blowover, because now what's happening is, we can maybe cue that up and show it again in slow motion. The boat was already turned, and that means it's not a blowover. What happens is, when the boat is rotated, the boat is in a very unstable position for a period of time. So he's going down the straightaway, well, and that's actually in the corner. But the right sponson hit a wave. That pushed it up in the air, and then once that right sponson got in the air, it took off. So let's take a look again here and see if we can see it in slow motion. Now watch the right sponson. He's going to hit a wave. He's going to put it up in the air. There, it gets knocked up in the air, and it just never comes back down. So he's actually at the apex of the corner. So, Mike, I don't really think of that as a blowover. We used to think of a classic blowover as being at the end of the straightaway. The boat just gets so much air in it.
I would agree. The way it came down, though, Chip, and that's where the damage gets created, because you came down on the right corner of the transom, which snap rolled the boat, and that does some damage inside. That's the part that the team is going to want to look at real quickly to be sure they've got structural integrity left to go, because they can possibly dry it out. As you know, we talked to Fred Leland. He was there once. They were still able to race.
David Bryant gets, I think, maximum points for not only quickness getting out of the cockpit, but style as well.
Yes,
he did that very stylish. And I don't know, count 3 seconds before he showed his displeasure with not being, he wasn't blessing himself. He was just mad.
He was just angry.
Not going to be in the final.
Let's find out what the reaction was down in the Haas Mortgage pits. Let's head down there with Bill Rocky. Bill?
Thanks, Stephen, with Matt Gregory, crew chief, and from what you saw, what happened?
It just looked like he got a little light coming in there, just racing hard, and hit a roller, and the right sponson came up in his face, and it just went upside down on him.
Were you talking to him?
I didn't have any communication once he went upside down, but I saw the hatch open up, and he got out of there really fast, so I know he's doing okay.
What about damage to the boat? Any clue at this point?
Hopefully I can get out there and take a look. I'm waiting on a boat right now, but we got all the parts and pieces getting pulled out of the truck, and we'll get back out there.
All right, Matt. Thanks a lot. Steve, back up to you.
All right, everybody's fairly calm down there, and I think a lot of this has to do, Chip, as we've talked about before, with cockpits on boats now. When you see your driver pop out, you know that he's, for the most part, you believe he's going to be safe.
And I'd like to hear what Mike says about this too, because in the old days when you saw an accident like this, there was a pall that came over the lake because chances are that driver was disabled or dead. Today it's like a NASCAR crash. When a car hits a wall in NASCAR, everybody doesn't think that, you assume the driver's fine. Mike, you were around when those open cockpits, an accident like this wasn't just a shrug of the shoulders.
That's right, and so often, of course, it pitched the driver out. Sometimes it hit him. This is the corner where Jerry Bangs lost his life in 1977. Anything could happen when you were in the open cockpit boats. And Pat O'Day, now the energy just goes to the outside of the boat, the pieces fly off, and the driver's actually in the safest place.
Well, you just heard what David Gregory said. He said, we've got pieces in the truck. He said, we're going to get busy. We might have another Mark Evans incident here where he gets this boat back into competition before the day's over.
You can be sure that right now that's what the crew's thinking.
Absolutely.
Look, if this boat is not broken, that is to say if there isn't a major structural issue, they're going to do everything they can to get back.
It's going to be a lot of fun watching the activity in their pits. Yeah, Jeff.
The other problem with being on the outside is you've got such a long distance to go. You have to carry so much speed in there. That's when you see these kind of accidents. The guy on the inside, he doesn't have as far to go. He can back out of the throttle a little bit and get the boat set. The guy on the outside, he has to keep that thing winging around, and this can be the result.
One thing to note, though, the wind was coming at his back into that corner. Had we had the strong winds we were seeing just about 2 hours ago from the south, that would have been a much more violent crash.
What this accident was, if you can think of a piece of plywood coming home from the hardware store on the top of your car, it'll lay there nice. But if the front of that piece of plywood gets up in the air and gets any air under it at all, off it goes. It starts generating more lift. So when that right sponson came up, the wing just took off.
Hey, Did you watch me leaving the hardware store the other day or something?
Mike, have we discussed yet, do we know if this race is going to be called official yet or not?
We only had a lap and a half down, so they're going to restart this one. They'll have to restart this one according to the rules.
Now that's the next thing I want. We've seen a boat come back and win from win the final,
right.
But we've never seen a boat come back and get back in the same heat that he stopped.
No, that he cannot do.
He cannot do that. There's actually a rule. If you stop the race for any reason, you're not eligible to go back in.
No, but there's another casualty to this, and that would be Jeff Bernard's psyche right at the moment. He had everything going his way, and he knew he had everybody handled at that point, and now he's got to do it all over again.
Mike, why was Steve David trying so hard to get the inside? He's already got 400 points from a win from yesterday. He really just now has to get a second or third. Why do you think he was trying so hard? It always amazes me that these guys try so hard in the elimination heats.
Let me suggest he's hearing footsteps. This is Bernard, of course, the guy who's the only one who might be able to take away Steve David's first U1, his first national championship for the boat and driver points all at the same time. And he just simply wanted as many more. And this is the anxiety effect of the old guys we've been talking about. The guys that hang on for some goals, they're willing to take a couple of chances they ought not to do. Were I Steve David? Were you Steve David, Chip Hanauer? Were you Pat O'Day? We'd have laid back, given him that, after all, there's another round of heats and plus the final. We don't need to win it all in one heat.
All right, Mike, and speaking of Steve David, let's go down to the pits and hear from him. He's with our guard Swanson.
Well, Steve, I got to ask you right off the bat, what did you see? Because you were right next to the hospital.
Yeah, I was right next to me. He got a lot of air, and everyone, Alberto, just hoped stays okay. He's a great driver. We love the Gregory team, but he got a lot of altitude, and hopefully that dissipated the energy.
And what does that mean for like the psyche and the next time you go out mentally when you see something like this happen in a race that you're in?
He and I both hit the same roller, and I got on my canard, and it brought me back down. So I'm still very confident in the way the Alberto's handling, and we'll go out and race just as hard next time.
But how about just the energy and just your mindset going into the next race?
You can't think about what happened to somebody else. You just got to focus on your program and just hope he's well and his team's okay.
A lot of guys are saying, you guys go out so hard even in an elimination race. Why are you guys so competitive when you could probably just cruise and get points?
Well, we could, but we're trying to win this points championship, and so every time I'm with a 5, I've got to get another 100 points from them to get a substantial lead before we get to San Diego.
Now you got to hang around and get a restart.
We sure do. Looking forward to that. Thanks, Gar.
All right, thanks. Steve?
All right, guard Bill Rocky is standing by with Jeff Bernard, who was, again, running a very good race. Now we've got to start it all over again. Rock?
That's right, Steve. You were winning there, so this is more disappointing to you than anybody.
Yeah, just come down and see if Dave's all right. He's a good friend, and yeah, it sucks for us. Got inside of the Alberto finally, and we had a heat win there. The boat's running real good. It's going to take lane 1 to do it, so hopefully we can get back in the same position we were for the restart.
How much, what different preparation will you have now that you already had to do this once?
We showed our hand, and Steve showed his hand, so it's going to be tough now. Now each of us got an idea what each other is going to do. We're going to have to just try to outsmart them again. It's going to be it's tough to do it 2 times in a row, so without giving away all your secrets for the day. So Formula Boats is running good. I hate it for our team, but most thing that matters is Dave Bryant's all right, and hopefully they'll be able to get their boat back running. They've been running real good, and they're one of the fastest boats here. So sorry to the Kim Gregory and the U10 team. They've had some bad luck here in Seattle, and they finally had a boat that was running real fast. like I said, the only thing that matters is if Dave's all right, and we're going to try again on the restart.
All right. Good luck the rest of the way, Jeff.
Thank you.
Bill, Jeff, thank you very much. It appears the boats are getting out there now to the overturned, the flip boat that's out on the water. We'll get that taken care of. There will be a delay, however, for the start of the next Unlimited race. And so when we come back, we're going to go back to the videotape and show you Unlimited Lights races from yesterday, and they were exciting as well. Stand by. More action from Seafair coming up. And now it's time for the lights. Let's put them in the water. Heat 1A. Here we go. Here is Heat 1A, the UL 00 Trafficade boat, the Roxy 94.5 Hendrickson irrigation design, King and Bunny's appliances, the Miss Boat Electric, and we know who's at the controls there, and the Lake Trash Apparel, along with the G17 boat. The Shucks Supply presents Venture Bank. We'll talk about G boats as well. That's Heat 1A.
Unlimited Lights Heat 1A is presented for Seafair by KIRO Classifieds, the most local classifieds in the Seattle area. KIRO Classifieds at KIROTV.com.
And keeping our eye on the clock, inside of 45 seconds. Chip, we turn to you. Kaylee Perkins, the top driver again this year.
She's not only a woman, she's a champion. She's a defending champion in this class and a threat every time out.
And Mike Fitzsimmons, when we look down the list, we also see a big name, Will Muncie, the son of the great one.
Will Muncie, of course, driving that Trafficade warning power.com, but Will Muncie has not had the kind of power to stay up front like his dad Bill used to.
And let's talk about Heat 1A. Here we go with the call of the race. Once again, Mike Fitzsimmons.
On the outside are the blown boats, the normally aspirated boats on the inside. That means that Kaylee Perkins is on the outside and coming down strong. She's only got one engine according to the team, but she's got a good head of steam coming down here to make the start. They're across the line now, and Kaylee is getting a kind of a wild boat ride there out in the 3-lane chip, but she's still drawing them down into that first corner.
She is, but look at what's coming up on the outside, and I have to say that was a terrible start by all of them. They were all really, really late.
Kaylee Perkins, the red boat to your right upper corner of your screen, and she'll have horsepower to burn beyond the boat on the inside, the white boat on the inside there, and she now assumes the lead here. But as Chip mentioned, we're getting some action from the 13 boat, and that is J. Craig Fletcher over Tri-Cities. He drove very, very well, although he seemed to have a few problems, but he looks like he's putting the pressure on right now.
You're looking at Kaylee right now. What's great about Kaylee, if you look at that boat, how nice and level it is. It's not bow up, flapping in the wind. It comes up level and it comes down level.
Yeah, but one problem, Kaylee took the old course, the upper turn for the Unlimiteds instead of the Unlimited Light course, and so she's way off the mark now and has lost virtually three boat positions now as she made the long course, the Unlimited 2-mile course rather than the 1 mile and 2/3 course. That error is going to cost her this race. J. Craig Fletcher is out front and on his way to the bank.
You know, J. Craig Fletcher's got to win this year. I believe he won in South Dakota, and he is really coming on. He's a great driver. He's fairly new to it, but man, he's getting results week in and week out.
He is. That was a big mistake, Pat. Unfortunately, she drove the big course.
Let me say also that it's not as easy as you think. There's a lot of buoys out there, and trying to pick out where your course is not really an easy job.
He went on the outside of Kaylee all the long way around.
He did, but he realized she was going deep. They go up into the upper corner to start the race, but they don't do it when they're actually in racing action. Okay, here comes Mr. Fletcher around for the end of lap number 2, and he is way out front. He has a commanding lead on the others. They were pretty confused, some of them, about what happened there in that first turn 2 encounter. And way back now is Kaylee. She has drifted way back and is now in 4th position.
You know, when you're behind a boat that goes the wrong direction, it really is unnerving because you think maybe they're right and you don't know to follow them or to believe in yourself.
In fact, now I don't see Kaylee. I believe that she may be down in the water here. She may be dead in the water, and they had only one good
No, that's
motor.
that's Jay Fletcher that's down there. J. Craig Fletcher was leading. He's down, and now we've got a new leader.
I think Kaylee is out of it also, however, because I'm not seeing her there in the front runners. We're looking at the smaller boats now as they come through.
Look at outside, Mike. He's really coming on the outside.
And that's the 18 boat. That's the G boat. And that would be Dustin Eccles, who's got the lead on the outside there. That's a great battle coming through here to get the checkered flag. Let's see what happens here as they come down. Eccles on the outside in the 17 boat. Looks like he may have just enough beans to do it. He was a late qualifier. Whoa, gets a little sloppy, but he gets a checkered flag too, and that doesn't feel good.
That was all horsepower because he had a long way to go around, but he did it fairly easily. So that boat's making a lot of horsepower. That was a pretty crazy race. People not knowing where to go, people breaking down. That was a tough one.
That was, and we have the two top boats that managed a couple of laps, but Kaylee is down in that south turn there, turn one, and then Mr. Fletcher also down just about 500 feet north of her. So the two real hot boats in this one just simply did not perform, one by error and the other apparently by mechanical attrition.
Maybe we can see where Kaylee went wrong here. She was looking, although everybody was late, she had a good lead, but then she kind of lost her way. Mike, go ahead and pick it up there.
Well, at the start here, everybody is supposed to go up into that unlimited turn 2. And here you see Kaylee going up as the boats made their start. She went up the long course, and everybody else, of course, went around that regular upper turn for the 1 2/3 mile course. There you have 3 boats in front of her all of a sudden when she was leading.
You know, I tell you what, I can't think of a worse heat. You break down, you make a late start, you go around the wrong race course. This is going to be a heat that Kaylee will try to forget quickly.
and this, guys, is from the driver who is leading, right? She's at the top of the standings for the Unlimited Lights.
Yeah, her and Paul Becker, I believe, are tied for points. So this is disastrous for her, and this is a competitive field. It's not going to be easy to make the final unless you at least finish the heats.
Well, after all that we have just seen with this race, and so here is the official finish to Heat 1A. The U11, the UL89, Trafficade, and Venture Bank in Heat 1A of the Unlimited Lights. Did not finish, included in that, the Miss Boat Electric with Kaylee Perkins. When we come back, we're going to go unlimited racing again, Heat 2B, after our incident just a few moments ago. Stay with us. And it's back to live racing now. Unlimited's Heat 2B. Here are the storylines. Dave Villwalk desperately wants to win back here in his hometown again, and he's got the best boat. Jimmy Shane, though, the youngest driver in the field. Will he be competitive in the Formula boat? And Jean Theoret, the two-time champ, he'd love to make it 3 in the Beacon boat. It's Heat 2B.
Heat 2B of the Chevy Cup at Seafair is brought to you by the Boeing Company. It's presented for Seafair by Time. If it's got to be clean, it's got to be Time.
Here are the 6 boats in your 2B heat for the Unlimiteds. The Elam Plus, Formula Boats, Graham Trucking, Our Gang Racing, Beacon Plumbing, and Albert Lee presents Lake Ridge Paving. Taking a look at the course, the boats are getting into position with just under 2.5 minutes to go, and we'll take a look at the drivers in those boats right now out on the lake. And first up is the 8-time winner at Lake Washington, Dave Villwalk. Michael?
Smartest thing he could do today would be just to get out of everybody's way. If he can win it, get it from the outside. If he can't win it, let whoever else wins, but make sure he finishes. That's what Dave's job is in this heat.
Another one of those red boats, the formulaboats.com. Jimmy Shane, a youngster, but he doesn't drive like one, Chip.
But he's kind of the second string guy at Formula. He would like to show something here, so maybe he could be thought of as first string instead of Jeff Bernard.
In the Graham Trucking boat, J. Michael Kelly with a 3rd at Seafair last year.
One of those rising stars in the sport of hydroplane racing. Doesn't quite have the boat speed, but he certainly has the skill of anybody else out here. And if there is a spoiler in this heat, that would be your one.
Former driver Nate Brown is now the manager, and his nephew Kip Brown is at the controls of the Our Gang Racing boat.
This is the first time he gets to race without a leash. He was a rookie last week in Tri-Cities. Now he can race to win.
And we kind of jumped over him. We're now looking at the Miss Beacon Plumbing, Jean Theoret, 2 of the last 3 Seafairs. He's won them, Michael.
And Jean Theoret is going to try a different starting style here. He's going to try to squeeze in. Nope, this time he decided to go outside.
We got a boat down. We've got
the 13 boat is overspun there, and he's still running. But we've got possibility of some official problems here with respect to the creeping that was just going on there. Dave Villwalk may be one of the violators.
Lake Ridge Paving, that's David Williams, he's the curator of the museum. They're having all kinds of problems with the steering on that boat. He's in survival mode.
In the meantime, Jack in the Box congratulates the fastest qualifier for E2B. It'll be the Ballard boat, the orange Elam. Dave Vilwalk took it around the course in qualification at 155.249 miles an hour. And for the best in fast food, be it Ballard or anywhere, anytime, stop at your nearest Jack in the Box today.
Elam will have the inside. It'll be Theoret in lane number 2, Kip Brown in lane 3, J. Michael Kelly in the 4th lane. And on the outside, it's going to be the rookie and the museum curator. Into the first corner, though, the boats to watch are the ones that are just slightly back. Kip Brown got a great ride into that corner, but it's the 2 guys inside of him to his left that you're going to want to watch coming off here. And right now, Dave Vilwalk's got the lead from the inside. Theoret has to ask himself, can I run this guy down? Do I want to even try?
I think the story here is the boat you're looking at, you were just looking at Kip Brown. He showed the old masters how to make starts. He had those guys handled at the start.
Absolutely did. Up in the upper corner now, it is Dave Vilwalk in the Elam Plus, the bright orange boat, coming off the exit pin now out front. And it appears that the decision has been made by Jean Theoret, which is to let him have it unless he makes a mistake, keep the pressure on. But Kip Brown has a different agenda. He's going to try to run down Jean Theoret in 3rd position here, and he's looking very strong in that effort right at the moment.
We understand that he may have jumped the gun. We don't have an official word on it yet, but Kip Brown may have jumped the gun. If he didn't jump the gun, it was a perfect start. Sounds like the 17, which is Kip Brown, will be getting a 1-lap penalty for jumping the gun. So almost perfect, but almost doesn't count at the start.
Although that's the kind of thing you learn something about. You jump the gun in a situation like that. You never do it a second time, but you understand 1 tick back is a perfect start. And that would be a lesson that he's certainly going to register away in his mind as an upcoming rookie.
Vilwalk turned that first lap at 146.308. He's coming down now for the second lap speed will be 137.077.
Dropped it down, the water a lot rougher now. Theoret has decided, looks like Jim Hanauer, to give Vilwalk that ground and just simply pick up the 300 points, which he desperately will need to mount an attack for the 3rd heat and final.
Mike, explain to me why Dave Vilwalk would have tried so hard to get the inside lane on a heat that really didn't count.
I think in this particular case, it's because he hasn't raced these guys very much, and he knows that getting the inside lane by the final heat is going to be very important. He hadn't a chance under the new rules to try to dice with these guys before the start, and so I think that's probably why he did it. Had he not been successful, he'd probably be where Theoret is right at the moment. Right now, however, he is where you love to be, which is, of course, out front, and the checkered flag is showing for Dave Vilwalk, the Elam, keeping it perfect with another heat victory, this one in Heat 2B.
John Theoret finishing second, but I have to go with Jeff Bernard. If you remember an interview a few minutes ago, he said he showed his hand to get the inside lane, and that's a detriment. So I'm surprised that Dave Vilwalk showed his hand to all people, John Theoret.
Well, as you know, Chip, it's been John Theoret who has kind of been in his head for the last couple of years. The few times that the Elam has been up against it, John Theoret usually was the author of their problem.
He was, well put, author of their problem. Kip Brown, I think, is going to get a little bit of a talking to from his uncle. But if I was his uncle, Nate Brown, I wouldn't beat him up too bad. I'd give him some gold stars for trying. You know, you got to be at the line, and when you try that hard, sometimes you can go over. So I think it was a lesson well learned, and I give him a lot of credit for being up there.
So everybody started, but only 4 of the 5 finished. We lost, or 4 of the 6, I should say, finished. We lost David Williams, who is drifting in the infield just about the start-finish line after a second lap in that Lakewood paving boat. He's had some problems, as Chip mentioned, all weekend long out here. Dave Vilwalk goes back to the pit area now with a perfect 2 heat victories now, 800 points.
Mike, let's take a look at that start. Let's see how really close he was on that. There's 3, 2, 1, still no boat in the picture. Well, okay, he was over by maybe 2 boat lengths, Mike. What do you think?
Yeah, 1 boat length.
But if you can show that again, Vilwalk push you. Vilwalk gave a little hip check to John Theoret there. Because now if you look at Vilwalk, he's away from the buoy. He went into that corner right next to the buoy, but yet he was out of it. And that's called bearing out, trying to push the guy on the outside a little farther out. You know, if you look, what I want people to look at is watch how far that boat travels in 1 second. Okay, he's over. Okay, there's, now watch. And he's gone. Okay, so that is a great shot to demonstrate how hard this is. Look how far that boat traveled in 1 second.
Well, when you're running a football field a second, 300 feet per second with these boats, you know, that's a long distance to go in one tick of the clock.
Took Rabel about 30 seconds to run that far.
Absolutely, and don't you ever forget it either. There's Dave Villock, excuse me, the winner, and happy to do so, of Heat 2B here at Seafair. Coming back to the finger pier here at the Stan Sayers pits to be greeted by his Elam crew. And I guess, Mike, you have to say that boat ran just exactly the way he'd hoped it would.
Yeah, it really did. If he got clean water, he would take a victory. If he didn't get clean water, second place would have been satisfactory. But the order of finish indicates that there was no infraction on the orange boat for bearing out. Had he gotten a little bit closer to the checkerboard beacon plumbing, that might have been a different story for the officials. But just the jumping of the gun and the one-lap penalty on the 17 boat for Kip Brown is the only infraction here.
He was real close, though, to getting an infraction. I'd say any more at all, and they would have had to make a call. It'd be interesting to hear if John Theoret says anything about that hip check.
Well, and right now, let's check out Dave Villock with our Bill Rocky down at the pits.
Thanks, Steve. Dave, great start and great finish.
Yeah. Well, the Elstrom team did a great job. And like I say, we're racing for the Ronald McDonald's house, so the old mean days back out. Everybody's gonna draw blood every heat this weekend, and just race as hard as I possibly can to try to win some money for those kids.
You did have a strategy there at the start of that. You wanted the inside, right?
Yeah, I was messing with old John Theoret. I haven't messed with anybody for a few years, so like I say, the old days back, I'm gonna start messing with anybody who walks and anybody who talks around here.
You know, now he's gonna be messing with you.
Well, aim try and catch me.
All right, Dave. Steve, let's go back up to you.
We've got they're throwing down the challenges here. Let's hear from the Theoret pit right now. Head over there to guard.
Well, John, it seems like everyone's starting to throw punches at each other. What happened in that south turn? Did you get pushed out by Villock?
No, just a bit. I left him his lane, and he got his nose in there, and he was in front at the apex, and he was doing his job.
What does that say about the rest of the day?
I don't know. We'll see in the final.
It's kind of fun, though, isn't it? This is what racing's about.
Absolutely. We got 300 points, so we're heading for the final.
And what is it with you and Dave Villock? It seems like you get in his head somehow.
Sometimes I do. It's the way to get at him, so we'll see what's going to happen for the final.
All right, good luck the rest of the way.
Thank you.
Guys.
I like to hear the talking already. This is good. This means a fun day of racing for all of us.
Let's take a look at what we talked about, that bearing out. What that means is look at where he comes into the corner. I think he comes into the corner right on the entrance buoy. Now, the entrance buoy is the yellow buoy, and he'll come in right on that yellow buoy. Where it's still coming down the straightaway there. There's the yellow buoy. Watch how close he is to that buoy. He's going to be right there. Now, watch where he is on the next buoy. He's way out here. Look at all that room. So he went in on the buoy line, and then he goes right back to the buoy line. So that's called a hip check. And look what it did to John Theoret. It pushed him out a lane, maybe a lane and a half.
Yeah, it certainly did. But what's really interesting here, though, is you have to hold your arc, and that's what you look for. If you have a nice round arc, if you're even 10, 15, 20 feet off the buoy, as long as you have an arc, he didn't. He had a kind of a square corner there. And that one was just marginal in terms of the call.
But what John Theoret said was true. Dave was doing his job. That wasn't dirty driving. That was what a driver's supposed to do. You want to take it right to the edge, and that's exactly what Dave Villock did.
Chip, if Jean Theoret ever thinks that Dave Villock's going to give him a break, if he were a chicken, he would think that Colonel Sanders would give him a break.
Dave, I hear a lot of confidence. I don't know about you, Steve, but I think he believes his boat is so good. He's picking fights really early this morning, and I think that can only come from a guy who believes he's got a really good piece of equipment.
Well, either that or he's, bluffing.
Yeah, well, a guy who has had some bad luck here the last few years, and a guy who always wants to run well in his hometown. Well, that's Heat 2B in the books, and unofficially we have it, obviously, obviously, here we go with the Elam Plus on top. And as Dave Vilwalk said, they are racing for some $20,000 to be contributed to the Ronald McDonald House from the Haas family. And so it's a wonderful idea, a wonderful notion from the family, and a great deal by Elam Plus. Beacon Plumbing second, followed by Graham Trucking, FormulaVotes.com, the Our Gang Racing, and Albert Lee Lake Ridge Paving. Dave Williams' boat did not finish. That's the unofficial results from Heat 2B.
Heat 2B of the Chevy Cup at Seafair is brought to you by the Boeing Company.
Congratulations to Dave Vilwalk, winner of Heat 1B, or 2B rather, the Muckleshoot Photo Finish winner of 2B. Experienced the biggest and best Muckleshoot Casino and Bingo.
And if you're just joining us, Heat 2A ended rather abruptly with a flip, and it was David Bryant's boat that went over. And right now we are with David Bryant, our Bill Rocky, down in the pits.
Thanks, Steve. David, first and foremost, looks like you're okay.
I'm fine. Hopefully the boat is, but I was hoping for a better interview at the end of the day, not this one.
Okay, take me through what happened going into that turn.
We just got in the turn, and about at the apex, we kind of hit a roller, and the fin came unhooked and kind of went airborne. It just, once you get unhooked from the fin and got a little air into the right spots, and it just took off, and I was along for the ride then.
You got out of the boat really quick, so everybody knew you were okay right off the bat. That was nice from that aspect.
Yeah, I kind of figured I needed to get out and get up on top and get the girls over here in the pits, give them something to cheer about, I guess. And so didn't want them worrying. But, yeah, you want to get out of it, but I didn't even get wet. The cockpit did its job, the Hans device, everything did its job. So
the boat's still in the water here. Can you assess the damage?
It looks like we got a little, hopefully not too bad. I mean, sure, the tail feathers. Looks like the cowling's even still on it, but we're going to get the rudder and the fin off before we even try to roll it over so we don't tear anything up and assess the damage when we get it up.
Any chance you could fix it for today?
I doubt it. It's not enough time. I mean, if it was yesterday, and we could probably get it done overnight, but depends when we get it up. But we have all the parts to do it. We'll see.
All right, the good news, you're okay, David, and hopefully you can get it together as soon as possible. Steve?
All right, Bill Rocky, thanks very much. And you can see in that shot right there, the diver that's in the water as well. They're trying to get the boom placed around there because there was fuel in that boat when it over, right?
Yes, these boats run what they call Jet A, which is jet fuel. Like kerosene, it's basically kerosene.
So they'll get everything stabilized and get that thing then righted, drain the water out of it. And there is some certainly in there. But what do you think, just by your cursory examination, what do you think?
I think the problem is electronics. There's a lot of electronics that make these boats run, and as you know, getting electronics wet does not do them any good at all. If I were a betting man, I would say you're not going to see this boat again today.
It is always a big job when these boats do go over, but these crews are very, very adept at just this. But as Chip said, once you get those electronics gummed up, that could be a bit of a problem for the rest of the day. In the meantime, we still have to await the restart of Heat 2A, because David Bryant's boat went over during that race. And so we will have the restart of Heat 2A coming up shortly. In the meantime, we want to head out to the start-finish line and to the incomparable one, Pat O'Day, who has spent so many Seafair Sundays here along the shores of Lake Washington. Patrick?
Well, what's really incomparable is the drivers of these 3.5-ton boats. And we just saw what driving can mean in that Haas mortgage boat. You know, they're traveling at nearly 190 miles an hour. There was a time when this was likely the single most hazardous driving job in motorsports until the safety capsule came along and we saw it employed today. But for the past 50 years, 58 years actually, we've been gathering on this shore and around this log boom witnessing the fastest sport on water. And we came to idolize the drivers, skillful, courageous, oft-times flamboyant, every one of them wanting to win this race, to win at Seafair. And although the drivers number at over 100 over the years, many names have become deeply engraved in our memories for their charisma and their personality and their skill. Today we'd like to spotlight just a few of those drivers. Bill Boyne Jr. owned a hydroplane, the Miss Wahoo, named for the Nebraska town where he was born, and his driver was none other than a pilot who had escaped from behind the Iron Curtain by flying a Czechoslovakian airliner filled with passengers under the Iron Curtain to freedom in West Germany. He soon became an American citizen and was not only Bill Boyne's private pilot, but the driver of his hydroplane. And oh, did he drive it. He was disgustingly good looking. Women went nuts over him. One year he was unlimited driving champion and eventually confined his efforts to flying as a captain for Continental Airlines. His name was Myra Slovak. Willard Rhodes, the head of the Thriftway stores, decided to build and sponsor an Unlimited. To drive the boat, he hired a brilliant young racer from Detroit, moved him to Seattle. He was to become the winningest driver in the entire history of the sport, a record that stands today, 62 career victories. And, of course, we have today, his name was Bill Munsey. And it's almost impossible to pick the top 10 favorites of all time, as each of them were special in their own way, and they had their own choir of fans. But other names that protrude: Dean Chenoweth driving Budweiser's, Bill Brow, the Burien milkman, Billy Shoemaker, the owner of the Beacon Plumbing and the driver of Miss Bardall for many years. Other Bardall drivers, Ronnie Musson. And then there was Tommy Deeth, George Henley of Pan Pac, Mitch and Mark Evans, Jack Ragus driving the Hawaii Kai. And of course, closely following Bill Munsey, the late Bill Munsey in the win column, two great drivers that are here on the course today. One driving that orange boat, the Elam, who just won a heat, and the other up in our KIRO 7 pit tower with Steve Rabel. Those drivers, Dave Vilwalk and our own Chip Hanauer.
And Pat O'Day, who has seen them all race over the years. Wow. Now there's where we all ought to be.
I tell you, my father has celebrated Seafair every year in that same deal. So, Dad, how are you?
We're so pleased that he's joining us, watching his son and listening to him as well.
Stan there.
Hiya, Stan. How are you? I like the flamingo over there. Hey, when we come back, we're going to have Unlimited Lights Heat 1B from yesterday, and we'll also continue to await the restart of Heat 2A for the Unlimited Hydroplanes. Seafair is the place to be on this Sunday. We'll be right back. And time to go racing again with Heat 1B in the Unlimited Lights. And here is your rundown. The Mako of Bremerton, Gresham Drill Welling, the America Credit Union, Miss Critical Logic, Graham Trucking. They've been a champion many times here. Army Strong Napa Auto Parts, and the Zadaro Wilmot Racing Team. The X-Man at the controls there. This is Heat 1B.
Unlimited Lights Heat 1B is presented for Seafair by Graham Trucking. Import, export, and regional domestic. Let us take a load off.
And as we take a look with just under 50 seconds to go, everybody, Chip, you can bet, is going to be concerned now about scoring up and properly following the right buoys. But as you said earlier, it's not all that easy sometimes.
You know, it's easy for the Unlimited drivers because the course is very obvious. But for these guys who have to use part of the Lights course and part of the Unlimited course, it's harder than you think.
And, Mike, there is also a G-boat in this race, too, correct? But they start 10 seconds behind the Lights.
That's correct. That's a horsepower differential, and they're trying to establish some parity with that. You got Mr. Mallow, Ryan Mallow, in the America Credit Unit way out to the outside now, and your normally aspirated boats are in close to the buoy row. Everybody came around the buoys correctly and didn't make the kinds of mistakes we saw in the first heat. Look for both the Miss Critical Logic, Paul Becker, who's one of the points leaders, to be strong at the start. And boy, he is right now. He nailed it, and he's coming down into that first corner with a lot of air under the boat, Chip.
Paul Becker is amazing. He doesn't get lucky starts every once in a while. He seems to be able to click off these great starts all the time.
Off the corner, he passes one of the slower boats from the inside and absolutely establishes control on this heat right off the top. Becker, an airline pilot, of course, who started out with some lesser boats, but always seemed to drive them for everything they were worth. Sounds like a guy named Hanauer who used to do the very same thing. But Becker is moving down the back chute now in command, but he's getting a bit of a challenge now from the Mako Gresham Drilling. That's Al Carstensen, who's a veteran driver in these smaller class boats, and he's a strong pilot too.
Al Carstenson's got the advantage right now, even though he's behind, because look at the shorter distance he's going. He made up a lot of ground there, and they're going to come out of there almost dead even.
Perhaps the biggest surprise, though, is that Papa Jerry Hopp in the Graham Trucking, the UL-15 boat, just now coming through. You're looking at his view of a couple of rooster tails ahead of him right now. Jerry Hopp and Greg Hopp, his son, trading off the driving duties on this race boat. Greg, of course, also driving the U100 in the Unlimited. But we've got a great battle for 1 and 2 right now, because Paul Becker can't seem to shake right now his challenger, and looks like we've got a good one coming down as Carstensen rather stays right with him.
This is a classic race. The boat, the yellow and blue boat, that's Paul Becker. He had the fastest speed and the best start. On the other hand, Al Carstensen had the shorter distance to go, but didn't have the speed at the start line, and you can see both strategies end up getting you about the same place, because we're going to have a deck-to-deck race here.
Now, starting to reel in the two leaders, though, is Jerry Hopp. Although he's back a couple of rooster tails, he's still coming on strong. Okay, we've got the white flag out, one more lap to go, and they're dead even at the end of 2 with Becker on the outside, Carstensen on the inside.
You got to give it to Carstensen, because he's got the shorter distance to go, but I don't know that his boat's handling as well. And if you look at the rough water that he's in right there, that's going to slow him down. See, if you look right here, he's got nice smooth, Paul Becker's got nice smooth water. He also tightened it up, so he didn't give him a place to go. I tell you, Paul Becker is an amazing race driver.
And he definitely took some advantage there, exactly as you described it. He's now a rooster tail and a half. Now Jerry Hopp has Jerry has managed to get by Carstensen as well, and he's trying to chase down Paul Becker at this last quarter lap. And let's see if he can do it. He's carrying a heck of a head of steam into that upper corner right now as they come charging through that turn. I don't know if there's going to be enough real estate for Jerry Hopp to do it, but he's going to give it all he's got. Off the corner now. Here comes Paul Becker. He's got the lead, and he's going to get the checkered flag. Looks like Jerry's challenge is going to fall short. So Paul Becker comes down to get the checkered flag right now.
And I believe Al Carstensen, I can't see exactly, but somebody missed the course again, and I think it was Al Carstensen.
No, everybody. Carstensen went around the lower course. Everybody else went around the upper course again. So Carstensen may very well have picked up a victory here, because he followed the 1 2/3 mile course, and both Jerry and Paul Becker were up on the bigger course. So they have been thrown off. So this is the second time that's happened. You know, they didn't do that during the score-up. They didn't do that during the first 2 laps. But Pat O'Day on lap number 3, when it all comes down to it, they did it.
I couldn't believe it. There's some confusion as to what is the entrance buoy on the smaller course.
And how this happens is, when you come off one corner, you pick out a buoy that you believe is the entrance pin, and you focus on that buoy. If you come off that corner and just happen to focus on the wrong buoy, you're in trouble, because you're so focused like a laser on that one spot. They just focused on the wrong buoy.
So here's what Chip was talking about, and if you look at the first boat out in front going to the wrong buoy, that's Becker. Hopp is following him. What it really took was a lot of guts for Al Carstensen to believe that he was looking at the proper buoy. In fact, he was. He takes the right course, and he comes through to win Heat 1B in the Unlimited Lights. We go down to Bill Rocky with the winner.
Al, congratulations. Good way to start Seattle.
Thank you. It feels good. It's pretty much a new boat, and we're still kind of testing it out and getting it rolling, but it went pretty well out there.
The first 2 heats, 3 or 4 drivers had trouble with the course. Explain to us, if you could, what they're missing out there.
Well, what we have to start on the Unlimited course, and then we go to the Unlimited Light course. So we have 2 separate courses we go on. Just for the start, we're on the Unlimiteds. But when we go down for the second or the first full lap, we have to turn on a double green buoy, and that's our Unlimited Light course. So it gets kind of confusing. From the air and the helicopters, you can see the course real easy, but when you're in a boat, it's really not as easy to tell.
So you were real conscious of where you're turning out there.
Oh yeah, I knew they missed the buoy. I'm going, where are they going? They're going to hand this over? Okay.
Congratulations, Al. Steve, back up to you.
Bill Rocky, thanks very much. So there you have your official heat results of your Unlimited Lights, Heat 1B. That was taped from yesterday. And we'll be right back with more racing. In the meantime, enjoy the sunshine that has finally appeared down here on the shores of Lake Washington. After a chilly morning, we're in for a great sunny afternoon of racing, and the air show is still to come too. Do not go away. And we're just about set to begin the process of going racing once again, and all these folks are happy to hear that out on the log boom. So again, down here in the pits, we've had a number of things happen since the blowover of the boat in Heat 2A, and they're still trying to get this boat out of the water. As we heard, Chip, they're going to take all the expensive stuff off before they lift it up.
A lot of you see them taking the fin off there, it's to get the weight. That fin weighs a lot, and it's going to make the boat awkward, so they're going to get the heavy equipment off the boat so they can safely turn it over. And they have to do that slowly. They'll get it on its side, slowly let the water drain out. If they just picked it up, there's so much water in it, it would literally break the boat.
In the meantime, all those other boats that raced against the Haas Mortgage boat that flipped had to come back in and refuel, right?
Yeah, and that's a plus for some and a minus for others. Jeff Bernard's angry as heck. He's got to go out and do it all over again because he had the race won. Steve David sees another 100 points, another chance for 100 points because there was no way he was going to catch him in that last heat.
Well, just some of the storylines that we're following here as we get set to rerun Heat 2A. Meantime, time for a new AT&T text in. This is your chance to send a message to your favorite hydro driver. So text your response to 51234. Your message to your favorite hydro driver. Texting enters you to win one of 5 LG View cell phones courtesy of AT&T. Start texting right now. We'll show your responses coming up a little bit later in the broadcast. And here one more time is why we're having to restart this heat. That's the reason why. David Bryant got out of that boat in one piece, but the boat is hurting right now. We'll be right back. Well, it's time to go racing again. The restart to Heat 2A. And here are the boats. The Formula boats, Oh Boy Alberto with Steve David. ProCraft Windows, Miss Albert Lee, and the MirageBoats.com. It is the restart of Heat 2A.
Heat 2A of the Chevy Cup at Seafair is brought to you by Southwest Airlines, the official airline of Seafair, with 4 daily nonstop flights attended, and is presented for Seafair by 76, proud sponsor of the Chevrolet Cup. 76, get the spirit.
So let's see which of the drivers now are going to get dialed back in the quickest out on the course here at Lake Washington. And for that, we will head right to the drivers of these boats. First up, Jeff Bernard, who was leading the race when the Haas Mortgage blew over in the FormulaBoats.com boat. Michael?
He's simply going to have to readjust his thinking on this situation, forget what happened before, get back into his game plan, and try to find that inside lane.
And Bill Rocky, are they on their game plan down there in the pits?
Well, he definitely had his game face on when he got into the boat. When he came out of the boat the last heat, he was very upset, so we'll see how he handles that mentally.
His toughest competition, Chip, will be this man, Steve David, in the Oh Boy Alberto.
He was about to lose 100 valuable national points to Jeff Bernard. This is a second chance to get those 100 points back.
And guard Steve David always has a smile on his face, but my guess is pretty serious right now.
Yeah, I talked to him just a couple moments ago. You know what? He is very, very intense right now, I should say. And he said the big thing right now is to drive more aggressive, get the inside right off the top.
All right, of course, the Haas Mortgage boat flipped, so it's out. The Miss ProCraft boat, driven by Ken Muscatel, though, will keep running, Chip.
Ken Muscatel doesn't have much of a shot here. The only thing Ken can do to make it to the final heat is to just keep finishing. That's all he'll try to do.
Well, he isn't even going to make a start. He's dead in the water off the north turn. It doesn't look like he's going to make a start.
All right, here's Brian Perkins in the Miss Albert Lee Spirit of the Navy boat, Mike.
And this is the young guy in a learning curve right now. The field is shortening down as some attrition has taken some boats out, and you have a chance here.
And finally, Greg Hopp in Fred Leland's U100 MirageBoats.com. And Pat O'Day, here's the restart coming up. What do you think?
Pride and joy of Gig Harbor. Jeff Bernard still in the catbird seat.
All right, Michael, it's all yours. Take it away.
Bernard has taken a chance here. He's coming down the front straightaway very early and very slowly. He will not be able to ratchet up much speed at the start line to avoid jumping the gun. Stephen David on the lane 2, however, and Greg Hopp to the outside of him. These are the guys. Bernard just jumped the gun. Bernard just jumped the gun by a couple of seconds, so he's taken himself out of this, unfortunately. He got psyched out. Stephen David is the one who's going to wind up your leader, although physically not in first place. That's unofficially, of course, but by our clock, Bernard was over the line way too fast, Chip.
Mike, that was silly. Absolutely silly. He just threw away maybe a chance to get in the final when all he needed to do was make a decent start, pick up a second or a third. He needs a scolding after this one.
And of course, Stephen David knows that. He's going to pick up some extra points on Jeff Bernard. That's what he wanted to do, just keep the pressure on him, get in his head. It wasn't a matter of driving next to him. It was a matter of actually just letting him go and making his own mistake. This is a case where an individual got upset and just simply didn't remain disciplined and took himself out of the race. Steve David is your official leader now. He comes down to end lap number 1. The boat that's physically out front, Pat O'Day, is not your leader.
I know. Bernard really turned a quick first lap, 147 miles an hour to 139 for Stephen David, but it looks like officially Bernard is not the leader.
That's correct. He'll stay out front, obviously trying to go as fast as he can to see if he can't catch up to some of the trail boats and try to get a little closer and build a few more points. But by now it's been radioed to him that isn't going to work for him as far as being the leader. And by now Stephen David realizes that he's got the rest of the field handled very, very well, and he'll just leave all the water necessary to run on the cleanest and slop-free track he possibly can at this point to pick up his score. Jeff Bernard comes across the line, and he actually has an extra lap to go after that, so he's only 2:04 down. And with one more lap to go in the white flag, the old boy Oberto comes down the line. And here is a situation where, as we told you, the learning process works, because now we have Mr. Perkins in second place. Things came to him. He actually is outrunning Greg Hopp, who had earlier outrun him. So this is a good move for Brian Perkins, because he actually benefits from the whole thing.
So let's contrast Jeff Bernard with Brian Perkins. Jeff Bernard had a better boat. He had more points going into this heat. He had less to prove. He should have done exactly what Brian Perkins did, which is make a nice conservative start. It's all coming to Brian Perkins, and that worked out so well for him last week in the Tri-Cities. He finished second in the final heat just by being smart.
And right now, Jeff Bernard comes across the line and gets the white flag. He has to go around one more time. Now the checker comes out for Steve David, who's right on his game plan and has just picked up some more points toward National High Point Championship. And second place is going to be Brian Perkins, in a very respectable second place. That is one of his better performances of the year. Third place coming down, this will be Greg Hopp in the MirageBoats.com. And he simply got beaten by Brian Perkins, who started and kept his position better than Greg Hopp, who is one of the older veterans. This is a case of the young guy taking the measure of the older guy.
And everybody take note that that FormulaBoat.com with Jeff Bernard turned a lap at 145, and the next one at 147. At the end of the day, he's a mighty quick customer out there.
You know, you can be a quick customer, but it does you no good unless you get into the final. And I think I would be a really good boat owner. I'd be real gentle with my driver, but I'm afraid I would have to take Jeff Bernard into the truck and sit him down and say, Jeff, you can't just throw points away like that. You know, if it was a final heat and he took a chance and it blew up in his face, but he just threw away a lot of the team's hard work, a lot of the, sponsors' money for no reason whatsoever.
I have a question for you, the driver. Is that decision by the driver out there as to how he's going to start, whether he's going to slow down or cut through the infield, is that made by him, or does he get help from the guys on the beach who are in the radio contact with him?
In my opinion, it should be all the driver. They may be giving him some information, but ultimately, as the driver, you are responsible no matter what happens. Even if they're telling you to do something different, you're responsible. It's like a pilot flying commercial airline. That pilot's ultimately responsible for the safety and everything on that aircraft. So I'm afraid Jeff Bernard needs a little talking to here.
And Mike, he looks a little dejected, actually.
Well, he knew the moment he crossed the start-finish line there at the beginning there that it was all over for him in this heat, and he just had to do as much as he could to save some face and get some points. But if we get a look at that start line again, you're going to see Jeff Bernard sitting on the inside lane. He wanted it so badly he was willing to risk being way, way early. Here he is, creeping down that front straightaway, and he shouldn't even be there. He should be up in the turns with the rest of the guys.
Look at all this space. These guys are on the money. Why is he up here? Why is he here? Now in a final heat, maybe, but even that would be crazy. And now here, 3, 2, 1. I mean, he is, I would say, 300 yards down the road when he should be at the start-finish line.
And this is the guy who profits from him. He picks up another series of points toward the national high points. So things are going well for the sausage boat today.
So the Oberto was the winner, and the next place was
Miss Albert Lee.
Albert Lee finished second, and the boat with Greg Hopp finished third.
Now, we may have a penalty pending on the Albert Lee also, we're told. We're waiting to see exactly what the officials say about that, but they have a penalty obviously pending on the 5 boat for jumping the gun. But the Albert Lee is also under suspicion right at the moment, which may change things a little bit around and may explain also why Greg Hopp didn't drive so fast.
Steve David is he is the wiliest guy out here. He has made his career on taking what's available. As a driver, your first job is like a doctor. First, do no damage. He never does any damage.
Well, let's talk with Steve David right now, the winner of this heat, unofficially at least. He's down in the pits with our reporters.
Regular deal. Isn't it? Hey,
I love it.
First of all, congratulations on another win.
Thanks. Alberto's having a great day, and kind of pulled that one out of the Chip Hanauer handbook when just use old age and treachery to overcome that youthful anxiety.
Chip says you're like a doctor. First, take care of yourself, and you did today.
Yeah, we did. We just Alberto was really in this points race, and that was a huge help to us. I think we're 931 or so up on them, and gain another 100 on 37. And for us, it's about points, and obviously we'd like to win heats, but we need to get that U1. So I've still got to be a little cautious.
And what do you think of Jeff Bernard? I know you saw him way out in front. You're thinking, what is going on?
Yeah, he just obviously a lot of pressure. It's a hometown race. Jeff's going to be a terrific driver, and heavens knows I've made a lot of mistakes like that in my time too. And give him a little bit of time, and the kid's going to be a fantastic driver. And Alberto's delighted to have a guy like that in the sport.
Do you think you psyched him out a little bit?
No, I think he probably psyched himself out. As Chip knows, when you're in the zone, it doesn't really matter what anybody else does. It matters what you're thinking and doing.
All right, good luck the rest of the way.
Thanks, Gar. Appreciate it. And all our friends at Alberto, they're having a party in the lawn. Thanks, Alberto.
All right, let's go eat some beef jerky, but before that, let's send it over to Bill Rocky. Bill.
Thanks, Guard. Jeff, big mistake at the start.
No, ABRA's rules are a bunch of bull crap. They put on this on-plane rule. They're taking away all the starting thing. It's made it a worse deal. It's a joke. They took a heat away from us again, and I sped up, did their 5-second thing, sped up the same amount as I did the last heat. Then they forced me to jump the gun and give me 2 penalties, but it sucks. We're running all year long as good as we can, as clean as we can, and we get taken out by penalties, and they're just giving this thing to Alberto right now.
But you did jump the gun.
Yeah, I ended up jumping the gun because I sped up. They told me to speed up, and I sped up the same way as I did last time, and they still gave me a 1-minute penalty on top of it. It's just, these starting rules it's a joke. I don't see how that start was good compared to all of our starts last year. We had way better starts last year, and I don't know. It's frustrating, real frustrating.
All right, Jeff. Steve, back up to you.
Well, Bill, thank you very much. Michael, he does sound frustrated.
Mistake.
I agree, Mike.
He just made a second mistake.
I'm with you.
Unfortunately, youthful anxiety was the situation here. He did not get a penalty for being off plane, but he was risking one because of where he was positioned on the race course. That was his mistake. He put himself in the wrong place, and now to badmouth the rules is a second mistake. And this time, I think, Chip, if you're the owner, you take him in the truck and you really have a talk.
And assuming he's correct, assuming the rules are, as he said, bull something, they're the same rules for everybody. And everybody else seemed to manage it pretty darn well. So I totally agree with you, Mike. He just compounded his mistake by a lot.
Well, I was at the drivers' meeting yesterday, and they emphasized you can go down in the water for 5 seconds once, but you can't do it twice. Well, he went down once, and then they said speed up. He knew he couldn't slow down again, and he had trapped it.
Well, with
but the real
30
question
seconds to go, he was in the back chute just virtually plowing water up over the recovery areas. That's when he got the warning, so he sped up into the turn a little bit, and he knew he was out of position. He was way too early for the start with any kind of speed at all, and then he was way down on speed. Then he got anxious when he saw everybody coming in the mirrors.
Well, as you said, the youthful exuberance, and he will, I'm sure, think again about his words next time. Here are your unofficial results. Old boy Alberto and the veteran Steve David, there is something to be said about experience over youth. Be patient, and you come up with an unofficial heat win in Heat 2A.
Heat 2A of the Chevy Cup at Seafair has been brought to you by Southwest Airlines, the official airline of Seafair, with 4 daily nonstop flights to Denver.
Congratulations to Steve David and the old boy Alberto, the Muckleshoot photo finish winner of Heat 2A, the restart. Experience the biggest and best. Muckleshoot Casino and Bingo.
All right. When we come back, we're going to go racing on videotape with those unlimited lights once again. We'll be back.